John Grimaldi's marketing career involves creating advertising campaigns and promoting more than 75 films. Some of the movies John has been involved in are Amadeus, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Midnight Cowboy, Annie Hall, and a film that was obviously dedicated to me, Rocky. John, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
You looking well?
I could be the next Rocky. Do
You
think?
sure could. How fast can you run upstairs?
Well, actually, my knees. But that's another story.
Oh, well, we can fix it.
Movies. You've been involved in so many films, some of the great movies of all time. I mean, the first question is, where are the great movies? They're not there. I mean, the Rockies and these people would talk about it and talk about it. There'd be queues a mile long. They're just not there.
It's a whole other separate interview. But if I can cut, I'll give you the Cliff's Notes answer. Certainly, the number of screens has made movies more available. I think the cost of films has escalated. I think the pressures have increased on movie studios to deliver not so much artistic gems, but phenomenons, events. And I think that the marketing of these events is more akin to bludgeoning consumers into the theaters than it is seducing them or persuading them or giving them a reason to want to go. I think the reason that a lot of people are going to the movies now, or the fact that it's to be a part of the event rather than see the movie.
So how would you actually market a movie these days compared to, say, the days of Rocky and these things?
Well, in the days of Rocky, not only did you not have the internet and the 500 channels and ET and Access Hollywood and all of these avenues, the marketing people, the advertising and publicity people, had to actively get involved in generating awareness and want to see for the movie. Certainly all of those, whether it's the internet or any of the publicity-oriented shows, are certainly part of the mix. But they cannot be the entire answer to the problem. But that marketing has still got to be beyond two big heads on a poster, and from the director or the producer of yada yada yada. It's there's got to be a reason. I mean, as a marketing guy, the thing that bothers me most about Hollywood marketing today is they don't tell you anything about the movie.
Maybe they can't,
but they don't. Yeah. I mean, there's no. I mean, movies are about the story and characters and passion and all of these things that hit poke around the heart of the movie-going public, and it has been reduced to brought to you by from the director of the biggest movie in the world, starring the two biggest stars in the world, and for that reason alone, you should go see it. And then we put a toy in with a Happy Meal, and hopefully we come out number one if we spend enough money to generate the awareness and the desire for these people to come see this. Now, when I was fortunate, I think, to be in the advertising business. My background is out of Madison Avenue ad agencies, when it was fun. Being in the advertising business in the late 70s, and I mean, I worked for the second largest agency in the world in New York at that time. It was a great time. When I went into the movie business, it was fun, and I think that reflected on everything. The filmmakers were passionate about what they were doing. I'm not sure that that is always the case these days. Certainly there are some fabulous, incredible filmmakers out there. but the passion for storytelling and character development and affecting people emotionally with either style, technique, story, and you know, a personality. I mean, all of the great filmmakers had their own personality that they brought to films, and I think that all showed.
So is the fun and the passion, is that lacking now, do you think?
I think everybody is on tenterhooks. I think that they're afraid that the ice is going to crack. I think the business is run by money grubbers and bean counters. It's not, and the studios, the few that there are run by conglomerates. More movies, to me, seem like McDonald's hamburgers.
And it's tasty.
And about as tasty.
So how did you get into the business? I mean, you must have a great story to tell.
As I said before, I was working at an ad agency in Madison Avenue, and I had a friend who worked at United Artists, who was in a creative position. And he knew that there was a creative position opening up, and he said to call a gentleman by the name of Gabe Sumner. He's a legendary, like, creative head. I mean, you have to understand, at this period in time, there were only a handful of major studios, and UA was very high on the list, but it was UA and Paramount and MGM and very few. Universal, certainly. Disney. It's that way now. That's the same now. So I called Gabe Sumner. And I said, this is John Grimaldi, and I'd like to come in and talk to you about the creative positioning. And his secretary, you know, obviously had a conversation with Gabe and got me back on the phone and said, come in tomorrow. So I was amazed at the fast response time. I mean, that is not normal, you know. But and I went in. And I, with 729 7th Avenue, New York, and I got on the elevator and I went up to the executive offices, and the elevator doors opened, and it was like the lobby of Radio City Music Hall. It was the columns and red carpet and a wall with, like, you know, Oscars and Palme d'Ors, and I thought to myself, I can get pretty used to this. And a very adorably perky, you know, secretary came over and said, Mr. Grimaldi, you know, can we get you coffee and, you know,
Prozac.
Make you go? So I said, sure. And she came back with like a, you know, coffee in like a Minton, you know, cup, you know, with a basket of croissants and brioche and like Fortnum and Mason jams and stuff.
Your finger came out of the cup?
My finger came
this,
out,
like
and I'm thinking, man, this is, you know, and at the agency, I mean, I understand where I'm coming from. We're throwing footballs and throwing frisbees across the room. So she says, well, you know, Mr. Grimaldi, you know, Gabe's on the phone right now, and I had heard that Gabe Sumner was like a rancorous, you know, tyrant. He's a little short guy. I don't know. You have to pick him up to get him to use the urinal, you know.
Was he taller or shorter than Danny DeVito?
He was about the same height, actually. About the same height.
Somebody to look up to.
Yeah, but he was great. But anyway, so she says, well, you know, I'm sorry, you know, that he's on the phone, you know, and he'll be right out. And then he came out. And as I say, he's this little guy, and he comes over to me, and, you know, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. And he brings me into his office. Big, huge office, and in the creative departments, they always had a like molding around the walls. Okay, that when you work on a movie for the print campaigns, they do a gazillion comps for a post. Maybe when you see one poster in the movie house or whatever, the efforts that go into that before it gets to that final poster are in the hundreds. Okay, and at that time, he starts taking out these. They're mounted on foam core, you know, and he starts putting them on the wall. He said, "This is what we're going after for the the women's market. This is what we're going after for the date night crowd. And this is the young people's thing, whatever." And I'm thinking, boy, this for an interview, this guy really wants to get me involved. I mean, I love this. And and the movie was Last Tango in Paris. Okay? And he shows me all this stuff, and then he says, "I want you to see the trailer." I'm like, holy smokes, this is unbelievable. So finally, the trailer comes. He says, "So do you like it? Which do you like? And what, whatever?" And I said, "I like that one, and I like this." And he says, "Great." He says, "Your father is going to be a very rich man." And I looked at him and I said, like, well, he does well, but like, what are you talking about? And he looked at me like, "Aren't you Alberto Grimaldi's son?" And I said, "No." Last Tango in Paris was produced by Bernardo Bertolucci and Alberto Grimaldi. So he thought that I was coming in. They all thought when I said I'm coming in for the creative position, they all thought I was coming in to discuss the creative on the movie as part of the Grimaldi family. So I showed him. I had a little, my portfolio of things that I had worked on, and he looked at the first ad, which was like some chick, in a cosmetic ad or whatever. He said, "Come in tomorrow."
Wow, so it still worked out well.
So it worked out well, but that was how I got into the business.
Out of all the movies you've been associated with, which is your favorite? Do you have any favorite?
Oh, Amadeus, hands down, without question, Amadeus.
Why?
First of all, I love music. Secondly, every aspect of that film, right down to the pastries that were served at the dances that they had, were authentic. And I mean, what Milos Forman did with that movie is unbelievable.
So what's John Grimaldi doing now?
Well, when I sold my agency, I did it to pursue individual projects that I had. I mean, Frank Housen, who I think you know, Frank Housen.
With a film called Remembering Nigel,
absolutely,
which apparently
is brilliant.
Yes,
it's brilliant. But Frank and I developed and created a thing called Aussie Fest, which became Australia Week and is now called Aussie Week.
That's a story.
That's a story.
There's
that's a whole other
story,
thing.
Yes.
But that was one thing that I did. I also, with another one of your compatriots, John Michael Housen, who has written Shout and Dusty, and he's brilliant unto his own self. I wrote a couple of things with him. I've got a couple of projects with Waddy Wachtel, who you should certainly interview, who is a legend unto his own.
Looking at the whole entertainment industry right now, if somebody was to ask you in one word only to describe the industry right now, what word would you use? One word.
Adjusting.
So in a word though, and just if somebody was to say, "John, we would like you to do an elevated pitch on what John Grimaldi is all about," but you've only got one word.
Well, the word, if it were
one word,
I would like what I would aspire to. I mean, but not so much what I am, but what I would try to aspire to. In one word, is elegance, probably.
Elegance.
Yeah, I think everything should have an elegance to it. Whether it's in the final product that you deliver, to the way one carries themselves, to I mean, you can't go wrong with elegant.
John, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.